shaking the rust off.
Shaking the rust off? I will be too, so we're in this thing together, brother.
What does this feel like to have us all around you and right back to where we were 18 months ago when we've been doing this over Zoom for so long?
It feels good. You know, it's just, I think everybody's needing that human connection, just that personal touch. So it's good to see all you guys here, have an opportunity for us to get back to somewhat normalcy, to realize that, man, we're all still people, we're all human beings, and just good to be out in front of you guys and not behind a computer screen.
Tony, how about the progress of the running back room, and in particular Will Shipley?
You know, CJ did a great job with those guys, and obviously it's not easy. You know, coming in, you know, for me it was a little bit bittersweet transitioning. You know, because I recruited all those guys, and I've been through several cycles where I recruited a young man, coached him for 4 years, watched him graduate and move on. But man, he stepped in, didn't miss a beat. Those guys have really gravitated towards his personality, his coaching style. So feel really good, you know, about the hands that I passed him off to. But just excited. I think we all knew Shipley coming out of high school was a very talented young man. I think he's as advertised everything that he was able to accomplish from a ranking standpoint. You know, he's validated since he's got here. But the thing I'll say about Shipley and Maffa, both of those guys coming in, is they're exceptional young men. And I knew that in the recruiting process, but to actually get to see it in person, with them being a part of our program, they're not only going to make the running back room better, but they're going to make everybody better. And they're the type of players that, you know, I've said this before about, you know, individual players. They're the type of players that make a coach better. So really pleased with how quickly they were able to pick up, you know, what we're trying to do on offense. They still got a ton to learn, but those guys are, you know, they're gym rats. They're in here all the time. They're putting in extra work. So excited, really excited for Kobe to get an opportunity. He was a guy that I think we saw flashes from, you know, last season. For him to have an opportunity to go, you know, neck and neck with Linjay. You know, really proud of Linjay too. You know, Linjay's been a guy that's been ultra talented. Just had to get him to kind of fully commit to everything that's involved in being a great player, and I think he's starting to really make that transition. We've seen a lot of good things out of him this summer. And then, you know, Mikey Dukes is a guy that's really talented, that's developing, he's progressing. So man, there's a ton of depth, and the greatest thing about that room is there's a bunch of competition.
Is Shipley weight-wise where you want him to be? Do you want to put on any more weight, or is he fine?
You know, I think he's fine where he is. I think that's just got to be a natural thing. Biggest thing for him is he's a fast guy. He's very quick twitch. What you don't want to do is you don't want to neutralize his speed by putting on too much weight too fast.
Tony, the Italian room, since you took it over, talk about that and transition for you and for what you've seen as far as development of the players in that room.
You know, it's been fun. You know, it's been fun for me personally because I get back closer to the position that I played. There's a ton of receiver, you know, aspects to the position. Still, there are multiple guys. They got to do a ton of things. So there's a lot of carryover from the running back room from a protection standpoint. But it's fun to get in there and dive in and just get back to my roots. And you know, I think the guys have really you know, taken hold to that. I think they're still trying to figure me out, you know, as a person because my style is different than some other coaches that they may have been around in the past. So they're still trying to figure me out. I'm trying to figure them out because it's a different temperament than being in that running back room. You know, the tight ends, they're a little bit more, you know, straightforward about their business, and so I'm learning how to really communicate most effectively with those guys. But pleased with the progress. You know, Braden is a guy that I think we all know is very talented, still has a ton of room before he reaches his ceiling. You know, biggest thing for him is just to get him committed to being a complete player. I think when he does that, because he's very capable, and I'm really more referring to the blocking aspect. You know, just getting committed to say, hey, you do what you got to do, get the job done, and I think he's buying into that. Davis is, and I've said this before, Davis, even before I went to the tight ends, he's one of my favorite football players, you know, on the team, just because of the type of person and player that he is. He's early to everything, man. He takes so much pride in his work. He works extremely hard. He's so humble. And I've really seen him start to grow from a receiving aspect, just the details of being able to talk, you know, coverages and fundamentals of route running and releases and playing in space. So really seeing him, you know, gravitate towards that and take hold of it and take off. And Sage, you know, I think Sage caught everybody's eyes. I think we all knew that Sage was a guy with a ton of potential, but you just hadn't seen it because he was in a line. What you saw out of him this spring is that, man, he's a tough young man. You know, he'll put his face in the fan. He can run. He can stretch the field. He just has to grow in the receiver aspect of the position, just the details, the nuances. And in fairness to him, he played quarterback, he played tight end, he played everywhere in high school. Uiagalelei, everybody saw Uiagalelei in the spring game, and he was excited. I was excited for him, but still, you know, got to get him to the same thing with Braden. Just commit to being a complete tight end, and again, he has to understand that at your 6'6", 265, 260, man, there's going to be some expectation of what you can do in the run game, and you're capable. Now let's just go do it. And even if that may not be your favorite part of the position, find a way to fall in love with that so that you get to do the other things that you really, really like to do. And then you got Braden. You know, I think Braden, sky's the limit for that young man. I think we knocked it out the park with him, both on and off the field. And he's come in, been about his business. He's a sponge. And the great thing about him, and one thing I'm trying to really change in that tight end room, and not that they weren't before, but you guys that have been around me, you know that I'm all about the unit. It's about the unit. It's about the unit identity. It's about the standard of the unit. It's about everybody being, you know, that brotherhood, and really trying to create that. And he's bought into that, and he's really looking to Braden and Davis to learn how to play the position at a high level. And so that's fun. And he's putting on weight. You know, since he's gotten here, he's putting on weight, and I think that everybody that had access to spring ball saw, man, what he's capable of, you know, in the passing game, and then he's a very, very willing, you know, participant in the run game. Still has to get stronger, still has to increase his knowledge, his understanding, his technique, but he's a willing participant, and if you got that, then you got the makings of something special.
Is it fair to say that Braden is more similar to a Jordan Leggett, and maybe Allen is more like a Dwayne Allen kind of build, the way they kind of play the game?
You know, I think that there's some comparisons there. Braden is a quick twitch, very receiver fluid. Y'all saw it. I got to say this now. I got to give him props. You know, he put it on me on the basketball court. I went out there ill prepared. I thought we were going to have a little bit of fun. I show up and he's got his Jordans on and he's sweating. He done. But what you saw on the basketball court is he's a very, very fluid athlete. And that's what you see in the passing game. And in fairness to him, you know, he said it. He didn't start playing football until his sophomore year, and then he played wide out. He played quarterback, and so a lot of the stuff that he's doing, even from the receiver perspective, is still some new stuff to him. But he's very, very fluid and can run. You know, I'd say he's probably as fast, if not faster, you know, than Leggett was. Not quite as tall, not as big. And then Davis Allen is just, I think he's the standard of what you're looking for at the point of attack. From a tight end perspective, he's very versatile. He can play the H, or he can play what you call the Y, the attached guy, and be very, very productive. You can isolate him one-on-one with defensive ends, and he's gonna hold his own. And so I think if we can get him, you know, up to speed where he needs to be from a receiving standpoint, because you got to look at him. He played defensive end. I mean, he was in a run-oriented tight end kind of position in high school. So I think that the potential to be like a Dwayne Allen is there. We just gotta develop him a little bit more.
Hey Tony, I know we'll hear from Dabo later about this, but just anything you can say about Justyn Ross right now?
You know, Jay Ross has worked hard. Man, he looks great. And I'm optimistic, and again, you said it, Coach Sweet will be able to give you more details of where he is in that process. But from what I know, man, he's put in the work, and I'm very optimistic and excited. But Coach will have more details. I haven't been all the way in the weeds with all the details of that, but man, he's worked his butt off. He looks great, man, and I'm hopeful that he's going to get everything that he needs done from the protocol standpoint to be able to join us here pretty soon.
Tony, what has it been like watching him work to get back to this point where he can potentially play again?
You know, it's humbling, you know, for me, because you're talking about a young man that had a very serious decision to make, you know, about not just football, but about his life. And to see a young person in this day and age to be able to block out the noise, stay committed to his decision, and go to work every single day, you know, I'm proud of him, and it inspires me. You know, it encourages me to see a young person that's doing things the right way. You know, he's kind of doing it the old school way, but it's the right way. It's make a decision, stay committed to your decision, and then just put everything that you have into it, and then you let the cards fall where they fall.
What does it say about him that he's continued to press forward, not knowing whether he's going to get the clearance to be able to do this again?
That he's about the right stuff, and regardless of what happens in his football life, Jay Ross is going to be successful. and it just validates everything that we knew about him in the recruiting process. You know, his mom's made some tremendous sacrifice. His grandma's made tremendous sacrifice for him, and he's repaying them, which that's hard to learn at an early age. You know, some people, you know, there's even some adults, and there's some areas of my life where I got to do a better job of staying committed to that. But to see that out of a young person just lets you know that he's going to be successful regardless of what he does.
Kind of keeping it in the wide receiver, Will Taylor made the decision to stay here at Clemson. What role do you see him playing realistically in this offense?
Well, you know, the plan with Will Taylor is bring him in as a quarterback for the first year and then transition him potentially to wideout. So what he's going to have to do is come in and learn the quarterback position and be ready to contribute at that position, and then we'll transition down the road to the receiver position. But I anticipate with his skill set, I mean, he's a gamer. He's a natural. He's played quarterback. You know, I'm hoping that as we go forward, we can find some kind of role for him. You know, whether it's at quarterback, whether it's at receiver down the road, just because of the talent that he has, but just the character. And he's coming from a program where all they do is win. You know, so he's bringing us some of that good mojo from where he's coming from. So I'm excited about him. And just, you know, again, looking at a young person that had a tough decision to make, it just goes to show that he went through his process. He evaluated everything, put it on the table. He knew what he wanted, and then he followed his heart.
He's playing quarterback out of necessity this year because of maybe some of the inexperience?
No, that was the plan. You know, that was the plan originally, to sign him as a quarterback, knowing that long term the best thing may be for him to play. But we signed him at quarterback, and that's the plan. That's where we're going to start him, and you know, let him get his feet wet there, and then, you know, whatever happens after that happens.
Is it beneficial for someone like that with his athletic skills to maybe learn that position first and then transition to the receiver game? Because now he'll understand what the quarterback's looking for, then he makes that move.
I think for any player and any coach, when you see the big picture, then it helps you at your specific position. You know, and just speaking about myself, the reason that I believe I was able to, not saying I was ready, you know, because back in 14 going into 15, I wasn't ready, you know, but I had to get ready. But I think understanding the big picture, you know, gave me the opportunity to be able to transition, you know, to another aspect of coordinating, and then also running backs, and now going to tight ends. And I think it's the same thing with any player. And we try to teach them the big picture, you know, not just, okay, this is what I do, but why do you do what you do? And when you know why you do what you do, then you understand what you do and how you need to do it and how it affects everybody else around you.
Tony, what's DJ's offseason look like, knowing he's the guy now?
It's been good. You know, a lot of what they're doing now is player led, and so we have to rely on the players to take ownership and take control, because we're limited to access to them from the NCAA perspective, and so it's all player led, and then it's in the weight room, and we get updates and reports. But man, he's working his butt off. You know, he's leading, he's doing everything that he needs to do, and the biggest thing in our program too is we challenge these guys to understand that it doesn't matter where you are on the depth chart, you're preparing as if you're the starter. So it shouldn't be any different. Now the difference is he's had a full year here, you know what I'm saying? And so now the process may change a little bit because you're in year two, you know, so to speak. But in terms of your mindset and the way you approach it, it shouldn't change, whether you're, you know, a guy that's just getting here trying to move up the depth chart, a veteran that may not be where you want to be, or you're the guy that's been a multiple year starter. Mindset has to be the same.
Tony, is there a added comfort level from your standpoint, the fact that he had 2 games that he had to be the guy as opposed to throwing him out there?
You know, I think you draw some confidence knowing that he's been tested, you know, in that environment. Because with all these guys, you in the back of your mind, you're always like, okay, how are they going to perform when the lights truly come on? Because obviously, practice is very intense, you know, but there's a different level of intensity when the games come, you know, and there's a different level of distraction, right? There's a lot more noise when the games actually come around. So you do have a comfort level, you know, and a confidence saying, okay, we anticipate based off of what we've seen, but we still have to press him, you know, and grind him and put him in as many strenuous situations so that when those situations arise in the game, that he's prepared for that. Because in 2 games, you're not going to see everything, you know, that you're going to see. So you do have a little bit of confidence, but at the same time too, you still have to make sure that you're stressing him and preparing him, and not sitting back resting on your laurels. Like, okay, we've seen what he can do. We still got to press him and challenge him every single day because he's going to be the guy that we anticipate is going to run out there first.
Tony, to tag off of that same question, with the depth in the quarterback room where it's at right now, with the injury to Tyson and the young man being drafted into the Baseball,
how does that factor into you guys' game planning for DJ going into the season, like running football, things like that?
You know, we've been in this situation before. You know, where quote unquote we may not have had the perceived depth that everybody wants to see at quarterback, but nothing has changed. You know, as of right now, you know, we got to go forward with the plan, and what we've always told our quarterback is, you know, your job in the system, in particular in the run game, because that's where a lot of the concern, you know, may come from, is you got to make us right. You know, and even with those other guys, you see that there's certain situations in certain games that they got to make us right. They got to neutralize the defense. They got to give us an extra hat, create some better angles, you know, in the run game. So, you know, that hasn't changed, and you know, we're optimistic about Tyson too, you know, and the way he's progressed, and obviously don't know exactly when we're going to get him back, but I know that he's working his butt off, and there's been some really good reports coming out of the training room on his progress, and so you feel confident that at some point this season you'll get him back. Then you got a couple of really talented guys that turn down scholarship opportunities to come here and be preferred walk-ons, in Hunter Helms and Billy Wiles, and then you throw Will Taylor into the mix, and so you got guys there, and even had Bubba Chandler chose, you know, football, he's still a young guy, and so he would have been another body, but he's still a young guy. So Streeter's, you know, going to do a great job, as he always does, of making sure that, you know, he develops all those guys and have them all ready to play. And then as we get into specific game plan stuff, we'll be strategic in how we attack, you know, defenses with our quarterback, as we always are.
You know, do we have aspires as well?
You know, that's a question we'll get into, you know, as we finish up our all-in meetings. I anticipate that the coach will always have him ready. Coach always has a plan. You know, his job is to manage the personnel, the roster, the morale, and then I just kind of go feed off of him. Whatever he gives me, he says, hey, this is what you got. This is what we're going to go work with.
Tony, Dabo mentioned after the spring just how important this offseason would be for DJ in the weight room and what he has to do there. How has he progressed and developed in that aspect?
Yeah, definitely for him, because now you got a full cycle. You know, you got the off season, and really transition his body to be ready to go, and making sure that he maintains, you know, the right composition. You know, not necessarily looking at a number on the scale, but making sure you got the right body composition so you're prepared to go out and be at your best at the start of the season, the middle of the season, and then being able to finish. And really that comes from what you do in the offseason. And I think, you know, our program has shown that we believe the difference is what our strength and conditioning staff does. Their plan for the entire year with all of our players has helped us to be successful in the postseason. So he's attacked his work. He's a quiet leader. You know, he's not going to say a ton, but man, you see him in there doing a ton of extra work. You see him out there working with his guys, extra throwing balls. So he's really attacked this offseason, and we'll know more once we get around him every single day and get our hands on him once we start fall camp.
Is there a vocal leader on the offense right now?
You know, I'm trying to think of who that guy would be. You know, we got a bunch of great leaders. You know, I don't know if there's one guy. You know, Walker Parks will be a guy that'll step out and he'll say Jordan McFadden is an unbelievable leader. He's not going to say a ton. And those guys pick their spots. And that's where when we get back together with them, you know, that's our job as coaches, is to empower our leaders. You know, I think we did a good job this spring of identifying them, giving them an opportunity to grow and put as much as we can around them. And then once we jump back in August, that'll be our job to help empower these guys to say, okay, now it's when you need to be a little bit more vocal. But at the same time too, you don't want to force, you know, leadership if it's not there. You know what I'm saying? Some of that's got, and like Trevor. You know, Trevor wasn't an overly vocal guy until later in his career, but he was a great leader. You know, from the time he took over as starting quarterback, he was a great leader by his actions. And I think we got some of those guys. And then sometimes it's a challenge for guys because you still got some youth. You got some guys that have put in work behind the scenes, but they may not have had the production, and they don't feel like they necessarily got the playing equity to say things. And that's where our job is as coaches, to say, hey, let's forget about that. Let's focus on, hey, you got some equity. Use your equity when you need to.
Tony, a lot of reflection on the COVID season this week. I just want to know, in what ways did last season actually help make you a better coach?
You know, it put everything in perspective. You know, it really put it in perspective from the standpoint of, man, this is real life. I mean, you're dealing with not only young people but their families, and you're dealing with real life situations. I think sometimes we get insulated and we get removed. Like once the season starts, if things go back to normal, like I won't cut my TV on. I won't watch any TV. I don't know what's going on. I have to get my information. And then, the algorithm on my phone, it's all recruiting stuff. So I don't get to see what's going on in the world. So I have no idea what's going on outside of Clemson. But I think it made everybody slow down and realize, man, this is real life. And then it put it in perspective for me as a coach. It's like, okay, this is why you coach, because you made a commitment when you transitioned from engineering to go into coaching that you were going to make it about these young people, and so it just brought it all full circle, and it showed you that when people make a commitment and they're all on the same page, extraordinary things can happen. I think some people take for granted we won 10 games in a pandemic, and we had guys up and down. And so you had young people that accepted the challenge of being out in front, and using their platform, to express their desire to play. And then they came together as a team, and they battled adversity, and they found a way to still be successful and still show, what this program is capable of. So there was a lot of lessons. And for me personally, it really put in perspective what being a father is, and one of the blessings in COVID was that we weren't allowed to go out on the recruit. We were still recruiting our butts off, but we weren't able to go on the road. So in the off season, I was able to go home at night, and I got a chance to coach a little baseball with my boys, and that was awesome, and so those are the things that I take the positive out of it, and then really hopefully we cannot lose sight of that as we go forward. That we maintain that humility, and I think Giannis had is that how you say it? Giannis? How you say it? I don't know how to. I guess Giannis, but I saw the clip. And I thought what he said was so powerful and so timely, and I actually showed it to my son, AJ. He's only 8 years old, but I said, man, this is what it's all about. Your past is your ego, your future is your pride. So be humble. And I think Coach says it. When there's hope in the future, there's power in the present, and I think that's the thing that we got to take away from COVID.
Tony, do you sense that BJ has a full appreciation for what his legs, his ability as a runner, needs to bring to this offense to sort of make it go?
I think so, and I think he enjoys that aspect of his game too, and didn't get to do it as much as he would have liked to last season, but I think he has an appreciation. I think he enjoys it, and I think he'll get a greater appreciation just the more that he does it, and the more that he has success doing it.
Tony, I think we talked to you at the beginning of the spring, and since then we've heard a lot from offensive linemen just about how much more of an emphasis on being physical. Is that something you've seen this summer and spring, kind of on that right track?
I wish I could say I've been able to see it with my eyes, but I'm not allowed to watch the skills and drills. But really just, taking those guys and letting them understand that we go as they go. And I've said this before, and this is just my perspective, my opinion, my assessment. When we became, a championship caliber program is when we started to be able to control the line of scrimmage. Starting back in 15 with Mitch Hyatt and those guys and forward. And so I think we learned, one, you got to be physical, and then you got to have depth. I think what we learned more importantly about the offensive line last year is that we didn't have as much. We were very young, behind that first unit, and so we got to develop that depth. And so I think part of it is just the mental toughness, right? The mental toughness of straining yourself, pushing yourself, and then a commitment to that aspect will lead to the physical toughness. So man, I'm excited to see these guys. I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think they're very talented. Based off of where we left the spring, you feel good about the competitive depth that you have behind these guys, and you throw in, man, these three freshmen. Obviously Tate was here, and what we saw out of Tate, I think he was, not the surprise, but everybody's like, wow, he's impressive. And then you look at Dietrich. Dietrich is a big human being, and then you got Tristan. So I think that it's all coming in place. And then you watch Paul Teal, just the progression that he's made, and Hunter Rayburn is a guy that physically has everything that you want. Just has to take that next step. John Williams is a guy that gives us tremendous depth. Walker Parks has just been sitting back there, ready to break out. He's just been waiting his turn. So I think he's going to bring a demeanor about himself. Jay Mack is, in my opinion, as good as we've had. doesn't get the recognition because he may not have the measurables of some of these other guys. But, you know, technically, fundamentally, production standpoint, I think he's as good, and he's excited for his last year. You know, Bockhorse is Bockhorse. You know, he's a guy we're going to cross-train a little bit at center, give us some more depth. And then you love Putnam, man. Putnam as Coach said, he's regimented. You know, he comes from a military family, and he's going to give you everything that he has. So I'm excited for these guys to be able to go lead the way, because that's what we're going to need. You know, you win football games, you know, up front, and then when you do that, then all the skill guys are able to do what they do.
Coach, what impact do you believe NIL is going to have on your program, and would you guys as coaches like to have a little more access to the players and maybe be able to instruct them on how to handle this?
Right, I think there's a lot of unknown and misinformation about the NIL. What I'll say about Clemson is because of the program that we are, the innovation, and not being reactive and being proactive, man, we've been well positioned and well prepared. And our guys have been working with Jeff Davis and his staff and Paul Journey, building their brand for years. You know, career development and preparation for life, you know, after football, we've been doing that. And so we're well positioned, well prepared. I'm excited for the young men to have an opportunity on their time to be able to go and generate some resources for themselves. You know, the biggest thing for me as a coach is just keep the main thing, help educate these young men, you know, as best I can. You know, the tough thing for us is, you know, we're in a position where all we can do is educate. We can't facilitate, you know, we can't get involved in that. So the best thing for us is to educate. But what our program has shown over the years is that we take tremendous amount of pride in educating our young men on every aspect of their life. So Clemson is well positioned in every aspect to help these young men navigate these new waters that they're in.
Coach, you mentioned Parks and McFadden as leaders of the entire offense. What makes them so?
You know, J Mac is playing equity. Man, he's been playing for a long time. His performance, his production, the way he approaches practice. So he's a great leader by example. You know, Walker Parks, man, he's got that demeanor about himself that, man, it's game 7. Game on the line every minute of the day. I think he attacks his breakfast like it's game 7. Like, dude, I'm about to devour you. Like, he probably talks to his breakfast. He just has that intensity about himself. And then he can match it with the skill set and what he does, you know, in practice. So to have those guys, they kind of balance each other, and then they're a force that can go in there. And then you got Bockhorse too. You know, you can't. You know, sometimes Bockhorse, he's been leading forever around here. So sometimes you don't mention Bockhorse, but you know, Bockhorse is a guy that's got the personality. And what I like about Bockhorse is he can communicate with anybody on the position. And, you know, not every player has the ability to communicate with all position groups because personality types are different. You know, interests are different. But Bockhorse is a multifaceted guy, can communicate with everybody. And then he's a guy that he puts it all on the line. So when you have J-Mac, you have Bockhorse, and you have Walker Parks, and then you throw a Putnam guy in there that you're not going to hear Putnam, but you're going to see him every single day, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to feel him in that weight room. You're going to feel him in that locker room. So we're excited about those guys and their opportunity to get to work, to gel. And again, offensive line always gets the blame and the fault, you know, but it's all 11 of us out there. And so I think that, you know, all the pressure can't be put on the offensive line. Everybody has to do their job, and that's offensive football. Offensive football is poetry in motion, man. It's 11 people all on the same page. Like, when we're running certain concepts, we all got to step the same way. We all got to be moving on the same timing. The backs got to be at certain depths, and so it takes 11 guys. And so if any one of those other 6 are not on the same page with those 5 up front, then the continuity of the play is off, right? And then who gets blamed? The offensive line gets blamed, you know what I'm saying? And when you see a sack, you automatically say, well, Coach Caldwell and the offensive line. Well, no, maybe that quarterback didn't take his proper footwork, right? Maybe he's holding the ball too long. Maybe that receiver right there didn't do what he needed to do to get off a press coverage from timing. Maybe he's not in the right window. Maybe the back knows he's isolated one-on-one. He loses his one-on-one matchup. So there's a lot of things that go into the success of the offense and the offensive line, because, you know, that's where a lot of people, and that's the first thing you want to blame is the offensive line, but it's not always the offensive line. And then sometimes, heck, I might put them in a bad situation, you know, and I got to take accountability for that too. So it's all of us, you know, coaches and players together on the offensive side of the ball being on the same page.
Tony, a nice weekend as far as commits, but with you guys' kind of unconventional style of recruiting and not you're holding off on official visits till the start of football year. How hard is it to remain patient when maybe you see a guy go, I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger now, and when thinking, man, if we'd been more aggressive, we could have gotten that guy? Is it kind of a hard process for you as a coach to undergo?
You know, it's not for me because I'm very, matter of fact, I was having a conversation with a young man, and I said, look, I know it may be hard for you to conceptualize this and understand this, but you got to understand the reason why I'm so patient, because I got blood, sweat, and tears equity on that grass out on the practice field. I played for Coach Sweeney, and now I've been coaching. This will be my 11th season with Coach Sweeney, so I got a good understanding of what Clemson football is, right? And so I got a responsibility to my brothers that were on that field with me, those that came before me, and the ones coming after me, that I bring the right type of young man into this program, right? And then I also know what it takes to be successful in this program. And everybody's attracted because of what they see, right? But there's a lot that they don't know and what it takes for them to be able to see what they see. And so for me, you know, I don't feel the pressure. You know, I believe that I'm gonna coach the guys that I'm supposed to coach. You know, I take confidence, and not arrogance, but confidence in my ability to develop. But really looking for the right raw materials, and it takes time to identify. You know, if you're gonna bake a cake, you know, you can't just go buy. I mean, if you want your cake to be good, you can't just go buy the first thing you see on the shelf. You're gonna be particular, right? You're gonna go get certain ingredients so that you can build the best cake. And so that's my approach, and so I don't feel pressured by anybody on the outside. We've created a brand recognition in recruiting, you know what I'm saying, where it's a coveted opportunity to come to Clemson for the right reasons. And so just don't feel pressure, because then that's now, as Coach would say, that's that outside in thinking. And we want to keep that inside out thinking so that we can sustain success. You know, it's as Coach has said, it's always about the program and not about a team and not about building a ranking. And I think that, you know, when you go back and you look, you know, the rankings initially, right, we've done a good job of elevating those rankings because of having the right raw materials to work.
Have you recruited down at IMG before? You guys seem to be establishing a nice pipeline. And
that's actually, you know, that's my area, but you know, we also do a great job of team recruiting and position recruiting and getting guys involved, and I think there's a relationship with the coaches. You know, they understand what our program is, and I think a lot of relationships are built prior to young men, you know, going down to IMG as well.
Coach, you're coaching the tight ends now, and incredible depth at that position this season. But a guy that's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle is Luke Price. He had a great season in 2019 before tearing the ACL. How's it coming along, and do you think he'll be able to pick right back up where he left off? You
know, I think so. And Luke is a guy I'm really leaning on with this transition to the tight end room, because I think that Luke is an unbelievable leader with a ton of potential. You know, just got to get him to fully commit to what his, you know, what his calling is, you know, what his role is. But he's attacked his off season, and definitely he brings an element of toughness to the room that you want guys like that to be able to elevate everybody else's if they may not already be there. But if they're there, then sustain them. So I'm excited to work with Luke. You know, we're building a really good bond, and he's going to be a guy that, from a leadership standpoint, I'm really going to need in that room to help us come together as a group, and then ultimately be able to play to the standard that we set.